Lukey.
David,
Hey, mate. See, um, have we got good sound together?
I looking at the green bar kind of goes up.
Oh, the green bar. Yes.
Okay, good. So you're going
Has.
into the yellow, but I'm just
Oh,
gonna mute myself.
yeah. Um, how's the sound, mate? Is that better? Good?
The best.
Yeah. Um, what would we want to chat today about a bit? Anything particular?
uh, I guess I should just come out with it, Dr. Jubb. I was editing your book, Correcting Metabolic Neuropathy.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Oh, what a beauty! And I ordered a 5 pound tub of the life colored.
Right.
The whole book is about it.
Yeah. Oh, how amazing. Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that
It
okay?
sure is. Yeah, it is. It's incredible, mate. Yeah.
Also
Um,
wanted to know how to use the amber glycolic that you sent me. Thank you so much, mate.
all right. On the inside, when you take it on the inside, what you're doing is you're just mixing it with some apple cider vinegar and some warm water. And then you put an ice cube in that, or you put a bit of hydrogen in there, a little. Put an ice cube in there, chill it down quickly, put the ice out, and then put some bicarb and drink it down. So that's an internal way. Otherwise, it could be placed onto the outside, just like where it's going to remain over something which you want to remove, from the body. Like if it was yeast on a nail or something like this, it can be used, yeah, to clear away mold, fungus, and yeast. Yeah.
Tell me you could get rid of moles.
um, what you do if somebody wanted to get rid of a mole with that, what you do is you just excoriate the area, and that's just like with a pin, just taking off the horny layer, and then you apply this over that, and stick the skin around so the material doesn't go anywhere else except for just where that is. And maybe that takes one or two times like this, and otherwise that can clear that away. Yeah. Right.
Oh wow. I have a spot on the side of my nose. It's not actually sticking out. It's like a discoloration. I wonder if I could
Yes,
pick
you
up
can
that.
do. Yeah, that's right. That would be the worthwhile thing to do with it. Yeah, yeah, it is. You put a tiny little bit on there after you've used the pin, right? I mean, that can help clear things away from the skin so beautiful. It's better than burning or doing a lot of other things. Yeah. Um,
So
it's
amazing.
yeah. Um, interesting. Of course, we all of us we have a language exchange between ourselves, um, and this language really is David said a long time ago, as it's written, that a new covenant would come to be. And this new covenant involves language and our language between ourselves. Um, where someone speaks or they don't speak, this is communication. And what's involving language is never not for stillness, silence, and transparency. Really, is language itself, of course, because somebody speaks or they don't. That's sort of communion. But so judgment is never not where something is. And where somebody just says, "I love you," um, you can't say that in a more simple or more improved way. Everything that you would say, but adding more words to this doesn't make it better. Interesting that just a few words is what could describe something, and the more words that somebody is, less able they are to be able to describe things. Um, but it's everything that's sort of really to do with common law and our common practice and things. And common law is derived from natural law, and everything that's in a contract comes under the Magna Carta, and all of the things which have gone on where the contracts are hasn't involved a real true name, nor the verb is, or a noun, a proper noun or a proper verb, which this, like what we're talking about now, replaces whatever that old covenant was, which you or I or anybody was only a subject in that, and not, today where a new covenant is, you could be under any title conversion. And a real true name, like Job David, would be just one name, one word, and that describes a noun. Two words describe a pronoun, but not a noun. And a real true name would be just like my name would be Job David. It's just lowercase. And it's not a corporation where in the appellation it's such. And where anybody gets a message that somebody could hear that this Father loves you, and it's in a promise of what you could have as real salvation, where a gift is in eye awareness, that somebody could learn more about what this is. And if you, who really is a primary source, and that's where our message is to you, you're the primary source of the world that you have inside, and it's to be more perfectly in detachment, because where attachment is, biasness is, and these are things which somebody could be learned more to be in perfect detachment. And so love and humbleness are all bestitudes, though perfect detachment is the primary, most godlike sort of virtue. And an alliance of law movement, which is the arm, as people could tune in more to where this work is, it really is about a currency that's positively inducted versus negatively inducted. And we, the people, we sit above the government, and whether you're in a Westminster Parliament system or a Senate, top of conditioning Congress and this, the same thing has existed, that wherever you are in the world, we, the people, sit above the Legislative Assembly of the state where you are. And so somebody could find where this is, because it's sort of 26 people come together, and now public opinion comes to be public policy, because it sort of really is what, and you and I, we're above the Legislative Assembly. And these are things which, unless we would get busy, it's sort of, that's the role where we, the people, fit in, and that is above the government. A man or woman, as a word defining the title, is who wrote everything else below this. And so the pen is mightier than the sword, of course, and it's just like the word with the S in front of it. And so we, the people, really is who is of one of the people, just like you, me, someone. But you write in your heart where these laws are, where it's started sort of really giving to everyone, which is this new epoch in a language of peace. And so there's a magnaphoric conditioning that's to do with what's the positive and negative magneton flow where anything is. And in a jubilation, people have more golden age, and it comes to be where we are now, which is where you and I, we have a basis of a warmth and blood more. And it's really here in heaven on earth, and heaven being defined as the state of being between two children playing. And so a new nativity really is, which is of a grand unified totality called God. And it's not a theory. And so where is it that anybody, like you used the word heaven, but who's defined where this is? It's sort of really a state of being here on earth between two children playing. So if we could all be drawn where things are to a new covenant, we could be thinking how the language exchange between ourselves affects the culture and these sorts of things. And what somebody's worldview is, nobody's going to say that doesn't impact the way that you perceive things around you. And so who knows if you or anybody else is least, but yet the greatest, of course, because you become this perfect mediator between this I inside all, and even who really is unfortunate could find really deep blessings sort of more in this I. And so this is I inside you who is real, and it's really you and I where we are aware of perception, not perception itself. And this gives to you evermore this sort of master of self, which is really inside all of us, and you have this self-dedication. And so life is a mutual lived togetherness, and the idea that we're really connected to each other, and nothing is alone. There's not a cell just of itself or a spore or something, and nothing is of itself sufficient. You see, so it's a mutual lived assistance that we all have, and so you're thinking about a new covenant, and just think what the highest purpose is of what a golden age would be, which would be really yours and my spontaneous creative intelligence. And there's been a great conformity because you really couldn't be thinking that something else has existed except for what happened today would happen yet tomorrow, and anything else strange apart from that couldn't be quite right. Which is not so at all. There's been a great unconformity. But you could imagine the reason why somebody would really want to cause you and I to have some conformity about things, because they really didn't want you and I to know that actually anybody was living anywhere else. And then who would you have to actually negotiate with or anything like that? And actually, what was the reason why all these orphan trains went to Chicago when they started opening up, called it Chicago? And you've got all these orphans on the trains that went there. And kids were put into incubators, and I looked in the papers and saw all the ads and stuff, and it's like, where did all these kids come from that were put into the incubators, And it wasn't really said. It was just like, oh, well, yeah, kids come from Cabbage Patch. But you can see quite an incredibleness. It's not necessarily spoken, but where did all these kids just come from? They had parents, and basically it was a lot of Irish people and things just like that. When they come on the wharfs and things, it would be just like they'd separate the children from the families and things, and so it just was terrible. But the same as displacing a lot of people in the First and the Second World War so that they could create a state in Israel and things, which people could look into things just like this. It's sort of very open sourceable. But if it's a purposeful to cover up everything, it's sort of really a criminal banking cartel of a one world order, which is C.B. Cower, is behind conformity, meaning, oh, well, everybody was separate, nobody really knew each other, and there was no such thing as any fusion existing between all of us, which is actual a fact of what's went on more. And this Big Bang and out of Africa and all these things are very knee-jerky and doesn't fit with any fact whatsoever today. It's quite ridiculous. And it's only just like an Englishman recently, Haley, saw that, oh, an asteroid comes back. Oh, wow. So, some people could really just only just start to come to be realized about asteroids and comets and things and how those things can have affected everything. But if it was just a great conformity, meaning, oh, you can't think of anything outside that, so you've got Darwin all jumping in bed with the Great Council, along with Pasteur and these other people, all brown-nosing and giving you things which is not fact whatsoever. And so those are things which could have really shaped things below, and when new information came in, it kind of wasn't really put where proper categorization would be, where if you realise there was a great fusion, of course, and a lot of people came out of Sunderland and New Zealand in Mu, and genetics shows that to be so. Also, too, that people came from more or less the lands where they were. But if several continents really don't exist because they're all underwater right now, it's like, yeah, that's right. These things did happen. And so a fusion of a whole range of things did occur. And, of course, asteroids did cause great layers to all of a sudden just form over the course of a few days rather than, guess what, 1 inch every 10,000 years. And so when somebody says something like that to you, like they go, hey, the world's 4 billion years old, it's just off the wall, right? And then the copycatters, like, I'm fed up with these people that go 66 million years ago. It's like, where did you get that 66 million years ago? And where did you get to 4 billion years ago? And what's the reason behind all of that? Is that just a baboon? I think the ideas behind those things is just completely ridiculous. But the effect of it is to cause people to have a transderivational search for information, so it sort of leaves people in a trance. So, for instance, if I said, Lukey, how many stars are in the universe? It's it's just suddenly you've got to go into a bit of a trance about that, because how the hell could you answer it? It's the sort of thing, you see. So it's an impossibility. But where you've got five, do it again, that's what that means. Do it again. Lie in a region. Religion, five of them, all are doctored up when you've got the printing press. Yeah. And then, where did you have a book before that? No, you didn't. Not too much. People really didn't have too many books or anything like that. Why? Well, because they were handwritten, a lot of it, mostly. And, it was sort of somebody read those things, but basically no one could hear it. But most people really didn't read or write anything too much. And suddenly Gutenberg has got his press, and it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And they've done all the five do it again lies in a region. And they make you as a man or a woman, right, only a subject. A subject. Like, where's who? Oh, no, who doesn't exist. You're a subject. You're a subject. It's like, sorry, you are not a subject. Okay? That's stupid. It's like you're a wardrobe. That's, it's a fiction. You're not a fiction. Okay? So how many errors does there have to be on purpose? Yeah, because that's communism outright, that you're just a communistic subject, God help us, and also under capitalistic sort of predatorial types of conditions that go on sort of degrees of fascism. But if while we're doing anything and it's sort of related, or something is very unrelated, yes, it's an activity, and then like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, suddenly you're really given a bigger, the whole picture. It's like, oh, wow. And to improve everything, it's sort of really how you perform. That's right. And if you were doodling and all of a sudden action, it's sort of spontaneous intelligence, creative, sort of, it's really unexpected, but a big connection is sort of made. And this is our primary condition of ourselves. This is how we should be. This is the primary principle of this really spontaneous creative intelligence, because it's a really great idea where something is, and people will go, aha, it's a ha-ha moment and a breakthrough. And so the ice is sort of getting broken, and sort of suddenly you've got this insight, and it's a hallmark really of a spontaneous creative intelligence that it came from, that was inside. And generally this comes from you being more in a beautiful eye-aware state. The shoulders are relaxed, tummy's relaxed, and you've got more flow happening between the hemispheres. And everything is really sort of more conscious processing. And for this work, it's sort of really you and I were more able to have a totality that's unified. And that's a grand level called tug or gut, a total unified grandness, or a grand unified totality. Gut, it's really not a theory, it's really a flash of inspiration that somebody could really learn about, or the J.C. Quanta. And where does this come from in physics? That's the smallest pixelated dot, and that you've only got three particles, which has positive and negative and neutral magneton. Have you got a bit of noise there now, mate? Yeah. I was thinking, it's really whatever's unexpected, that's unanticipated. That just spontaneous creative intelligence is really where you've really got a beautiful cognitive syntax in eye awareness, and feelings are first, and then hearing, and then seeing. And it's really like a heart's path more, where there's an emotional logicalness behind you be mindful, meaning something is being done for the sake of itself, for the sake of something else. And you and I are ever more able to associate, to be artful, and your life is art in the way that you live this. and you and I, we're the real estate. That's what's 2 inches above the soil. Your BC number represents this, and you're the grantor of a trust and the holder of the name. And it's really that you and your BC bond really is authenticated today, and it's got. You could take that to 3 government departments and get it authenticated. Because you or I, we all have a reversionary interest as a holder in the trust. I'm just sharing this with people because you guys are all, and we are all the creditors of all the money that's been spent. And shouldn't this be revenued? Meaning the venue, there's 2. There's one that's from the land and one that's commercial, but revenued, it means come back to the land, come back to where the people. Republic, meaning what? The debt comes back to us as a credit, and whatever was spent, it should be given back and things. You see, so this is monies of account that should come to monies of exchange, and we should turn things back to how things should be, where you have your proper title, and as a man, as a woman, and then this right flows from that. Because if you're not given a title like all you were, and somebody said you were a kangaroo or something, no, you're not. What rights does the kangaroo? What the title of man or woman is where the right flows from, and these are the things that come back into a document, which is a new covenant. You see. So where title hasn't been wrong, was the 4 corners of a document right? No, it was fraudulent. And so these are things which must be corrected, because you cannot have smart contract to clear things up and so have decentralized governance, which we would and should. Now we've got something that really functions more, and you've got an economy that's positively inducted. And then you've got rid of, haven't you, forgery and common law trespass, which has gone on to you and I and everyone. And isn't this just the kill box that's gone on to actually cause genocide where that's been? I mean, it's really you and I having the ability, mate, to be able to be giving consideration and to know, what's the logic of another's viewpoint. And then could somebody tell me what the logic of the other viewpoint is? Like, what is Russia's viewpoint? And now don't be deficient about it, because that's going to be wrong. Because why? Well, you're biased that you cannot tell me what the other viewpoint is. So if you don't know that if you were Russian, for instance, in the Donbass region and things like that, and all of a sudden they said, hey, guess what? You guys are not going to talk Russian anymore. It's like, how do you feel? How would you feel if they said that to you and I here when this was your language where you were? You see, this is just stupid, and it was a lot of the things that went on back then. It was really bad. What should it be that some 52,000 people or something that was murdered over time, from 2014 onward there. A lot of things went on, and why isn't it that some build up to all of that isn't some background that gives you an insight into what goes on where something is? Because a crime is where it is, and why should the map have been redrawn, boundaries for the First and the Second World War, so that you would have a way to put on a map, this is where the crime here is going to happen, because that's so luministic to tell you what's going on, and a crane is going to carry this dirty bomb and something, and currency gets held hostage in this phase, and you've got satellite and you've got cable, and they knock out the satellite and things, and so then you only have cable, and so it's really what is it really where you or I being that's a good speaker and good speaking? What's the structure really of story evermore, which could be kept ever attention with? I mean, it's really under a smart contract that we'll be talking about that's enforceable more by parties and a sort of equal consideration to have verified cash, and a contract which wasn't enforceable, that isn't under CB-COA. It's really because no consideration was, and no consent was, no transparency was, and you've got all this fraud and forgery, entering paperwork into things which is wrong, and trespassing upon we the people. Nobody's going to say those things aren't so. It's like this is the very thing that most smart Americans are all talking a bit about. I mean, what's the reason to have this great conformity? It is because you couldn't kind of really understand, couldn't be accepted that a fusion existed. Oh yeah, these people knew each other because, oh well, if they did, it mustn't be right that we just found this place and we didn't have to give anything to anybody per se. Um, but all of us in the same boat, and every official really is under oath to you and I. And personally, and also they're supposed to have a foreign agent's insurance registration and oath, anti-bribery and things like that, and they've got to have that sign behind you because why? Well, your office cannot be for rent because there can be no, support what you had to get the office that you did because isn't that office active that you were supposed to be open to everybody? So these things really should be looked at, shouldn't they? Because aren't they sort of the kinds of things that's really sort of a transgression that goes on? But forgery really is harm to administer, like this father's property, me, of which really an object is such, and everything is really null and void because there was no such thing as any contract. But my property would be taken in anyone's under a dead man's statute, and a woman, somebody did that. They were a thief. They took my property. They probated it personally, and that was my property. And it was a constructive trespass and said, don't do that because, I'm reserving on my right. But if somebody just steals what your property is by saying that you've abandoned it, and that's what's going on, everything is under a dead man's statute at the moment. It's like two infant decedents signing off on anybody's property from hearsay, and rewriting what would be, should be, would go, and all of this go past 9 months at the courthouse where things are. And how do all of those notes taken not go along with the title as they're supposed to, as things are, and everything is bundled, and so it's stymied and stuffed. And how do you get that out where that is? I mean, there's so much contraband being held at the courthouse and things that's like that, and you've got black frock, white wig ones, and they're just ripping everyone off and taking everybody over to the left side of the court when the right side of the court is really where you should be. Why? Well, because in 1980, all of a sudden everything just goes over to the left side basic, and that not anybody's really, prosecuting any private claim and things. And so these are things which should really be looked at, shouldn't they? But what would be the benefit for all of that happened? There's kind of no real benefit for you or I, and none of us would have considered to do anything like that, you see? So that's the great conformity, sticking with everything that is like, yeah, that's right, people are getting trafficked like cattle. You've got prison and court bonds and people in jail, beloved, which they should be let out because there's no victim, no crime. If somebody reads more and they learn more, you can see that a lot of things are unlawful, really, and especially the transfer of yours or my title right actually flows from, you see. And who does this is sort of Peter principled. What's that mean? It means again and again the office is for rent, and who's deceitful is personally just getting didn't get any insurance. They didn't have it. They're supposed to foreign agent's insurance. They're supposed to have an anti-bribery and as a foreign agent. But if you don't have those things hanging on the wall behind you, is the reason because you can't say that there wasn't support given to you to have the office that you have? And that's just really not right because you're supposed to have that piece of document, and it's not just good enough. Yeah, okay. But that's the reason why you're supposed to have something in writing on the wall behind you showing you're legitimate. And so if you don't have foreign agents insurance registration and these things that you're supposed to have, and then you're an official and you'd be dealing with discretion, and you and I, as we the people, have limitations on any official's discretion, which is really based upon that official's due diligence done to be supportive of a natural right upheld you and I have. So no one wants CB Cower, which is a criminal bank cartel of one world order, to run their lives anymore. It's just like thanks for the service, but it's really what's been offered under pledging. Pledging just doesn't cut it. It's wrong. It's just taking us into things that got nothing to do with anything you and I would have spent anything on ourselves, and nobody wants to conform to just that bull dust, you see. And these are the things which most people can looking at and considering and what to do where things are. But being present, and this is a gift evermore because it's really you and I in some fair, in a sense of a bit of a flair to grace, of course. And it's really exuding more where charisma is, where you develop where this is, and it's sort of got, you're in perfect detachment, and art is in the way that you're really living your life. Life begets life, and dead begets dead. You can only join life to the living with the living, and the dead with the dead. And so fascism is where you've mixed all of that up, you see. So you don't have the living with the living, which is on the right side of the court. And to make everybody just into a corporation so that you could move them over to the left side of the court is really not quite right. But so far, sort of what we've been talking a bit about is like, what's the effect of being centralized, which doesn't model anything in nature, not at all. Everything is decentralized in nature. So the past of centralization and the past of being under negative induction and having usury, which is one of the greatest sins that could ever befall a nation or people. It's a great loss. It's a great cost to continue to uphold. There's no such scale of cost reduction of anything that's like that under this centralized conditioning whatsoever. It costs a hell of a lot more. It's not efficient, and it's not customer based. All that financial reporting, who's to know that it's not done? Why? Well, because it's licensed. It's like, please, shouldn't there be transparency where things are? Yes, it should. So .arm would be what cares, that gives you this transparency, and it's no cost to you. Why should that be cost? No, because you own the bank, and everybody owns a bank. And there's no cost to the transaction. There's no tax. No, you own the bank. And it's because you and I are more essential in the decision making versus not a bit. Oh, come on, how bad is that? It's a single point failure of systems where things go on that kind of, somebody would say that doesn't exist. They sure do. Single point failures sure do exist. And it's no, like, look, where you've got decentralisation, you really don't have these layers of approval and slow bureaucracy. And what should the reason be? People to be frustrated in a line because who's giving you a service? They don't want to give you a service. It's like, how bad is that? It's, sorry, that should be just over where the service is, and we should take over where things are more. I mean, we have to. If we don't, we're not internally regulated like we should. But if we have a proper responsiveness, but what if we lack that local responsiveness? If something is centralised, is it going to lack a local responsiveness? Yes, it is. If it's decentralised, is it going to have a local responsiveness? Yes, it will. It's not another way around where you or I are being able to adapt quickly, which you can where something is decentralised, but how can you do that if it's centralised? No, you can't. You've got a market need, you've got changes, you've got regions, you've got no departments and things. It's really just customer base more, and everybody wants this. It's just fed up with this third party jumped in there, did no work, and just drawing everything from you. Nobody wants this idea that every time you pay, every time you have a transaction, you've got to pay for the transaction. It's communistic. Drive on the road, pay to drive on the road. Nobody wants to live in a place like that. It's just terrible, all right? Decentralisation is how it should be, and this causes a greater morale where everything is. I mean, where there's disregardedness, as there is in the moment, it is because you don't have decentralisation, which we should. And so .arm is decentralized. That's what this idea is about. It's an innovation towards currency, and so it's asset backed. And so could this help the world? Yes, it can. And it can have equal exchange for things, and people could all move over toward what this system is. And it's positively inducted. And it's like, get rid of this service providing idea. God help us. That's just so bad. It's wrong. Is anybody going to say that's just like weird? Of course it is. It's been weird. And so it's just the cost of continuing on where that is just way too much. But it's a challenge. You know, you and I were anything is to have manifested more mindfulness where people are, and no one really is marginalised under that circumstance. And consensus really is in decision making, like we've been talking about. You've got asset-backed currency, you've got market change, the customer-based more, and no one really else is in between you and the account. You see, like .arm. And so you've got no bottleneck, basic, right? But what you've got there is like somebody's going to just turn something off because something didn't happen, and you went to get something and it's just frozen. I think that these things are, you're getting a service, but it's like, really, I don't think you're getting a proper service at all. And most people think we're not getting proper service. No. There's no bottlenecks for any emergency when they don't exist. And war is, but like, where is it? It's like, how come you're under a war doctrine and law when you know, that's not where anything is. And so it's a great conformity, and it's just fed up with that stuff. How bad is it, you see? Because why does somebody have to say there is a non-conformity, like there was no life and suddenly there's life in all these layers? So that's a non-conformity, which that's true. And so, you don't want to talk about those things because that's a great unconformity, and you better just stay where you are to conform. And this is really stupid. It's a straw man argument. You're going to conform or not conform. It's really a stifled condition of innovation, and it's just slow wit hands, and it's very the hands of a few, and all of them promoting their own selves to incompetence. And it's okay, basically, if your cash is quick, why shouldn't it be? You have to have decision making, which is vending. And so why shouldn't that be with smart contract verified called .arm, like it should be, where the arm is? And we move more toward this, and one arm is $26. And so the manifestation of a clarity is really personal growth, which really does ensure more business and active interest and exit into things which we're supposed to have. So it's really a past old idea, Luke. It's so burdensome to have that service provider, and especially inefficient government, not protecting private title whatsoever, and title conversion, which is a crime, and participation more in .arm as a server, really, with positive inductive currency, clears all of this up, and clears up all the currency conditions that's going on, so there's no disparity between regions. And so you could slow-mo any adaptation, and the lack of any accountability where things are at the moment can finally be stopped, because now you've got, check and balance on things. But you don't have check and balance on things. It's really totally off the charts. How we doing, mate?
Sorry, what I I wasn't sure that you could hear me because I have a mute button on my
Yeah,
microphone.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I can. Yeah, I can't hear
But
you, but
it's not recording when I press this button. You could
I see. I see. I see. Okay. Yeah. So 666, everybody knows where somebody put that. CB Coward did, and it's the ongoing murder of another billion and ongoing patterns of genocide. There's really an imperialistic ambition of just a fascist axis of what C.B. Coward does more, and it's legal name fraud and under forgery and common law trespass. So it's really just a dinosaur, and it's truly a bad idea. Where things have been, you see. So shouldn't you think that these sort of things should get cleared up? Because it's very luministic, isn't it? Of course, very moral to tell you about 666 because, well, that's the mark of the beast. And isn't that the number that was given to all the COVID money? And the bills that got passed to get the COVID money. And so it's just really, where something wasn't vetted properly, which that wasn't, that's wrong. And then things that's not vetted properly, that's wrong. And did you and I have a say in any of that? No. And so it just costs too much to be upholding what's a non-stop ask, order, conform, and then just dip into everyone's credit and spend it on things that you would want, but not for you or I. It's really all we want, and anyone wants is cash. That's it. Currency is cash, and cash is the golden age. And that everything to function actually come back to what this is, and consent and transparency and compensation. And this is you are the real estate. And it's luministic to tell you that what you're in for. And if you don't wake up, of course, you've got things on the horizon. Why shouldn't it be that you and I, we actually can get all these things sort of straightened out? But, it's a belief system that technology, you're going to tell somebody what you're going to do. And so then you don't feel too bad about it because they're just choosing it now themselves. And that's just a way for people who are doing this to feel less cortisol themselves about the whole condition that they've set up, you see. Yeah? So anyway, there's a bit in there. I think that you've got currency held hostage. You've got on the map the crime here. You've got all this sort of set up some time ago. You've got the Toltec that told everybody, that they're from the city, and they're just really incensed that people just think that there's just like, some Indians in teepee somewhere, and nothing else existed. It's like tin and the word for steel, and who built where steel was, and who had these big, huge boats. You've got a submission to authority for the sake of certainty, that's what religion is. And so you've got, nobody could say lots of pretextual distraction and all sorts of things to take people's spiritual proper journey away from them. And that religion is a submission to authority for the sake of certainty, for a great conformity, and conforming, and that isn't by any consent at all, just insensual, nor any transparency. And so you've got things going on like modern medicine, which is really the art of keeping people amused while nature takes its course. And to the degree to which there's a submission to authority, where all of it already is, you've got a dogma, and you've got the tail wagging the dog, and it's to war, and then you hear, and I don't want to get agreement. It's like, who's that? This must be the most maddest individual in the world. I'm not talking or speaking anything that anybody has in their heart. Where does this come from? You're supposed to actually immediately, find agreement with your adversary as soon as you can. It's more spiritual. But if somebody looks into how many are, Milgrammed, and the Milgram syndrome, or the water cooler effect, or learned helplessness state, you've got a lot of these worm spaces artificially put and offered, and everything is given to someone and they jump into that womb space. But it's who's been paying the piper, and it's really totally not okay for people not to know that cities were already here on Turtle Island, and too many say, you know, um, that's not so, though. You've got lots of people like the Latter-day Saints that sort of do know that is so. So it's just, if we look at currency held hostage and you're looking at 666, um, what's the peril often ongoing, which really, is decentralised, which governance is supposed to be. It's an instinct for all of us to be more social, and shouldn't sort of some sort of conciliation be got. Everybody can move more into a golden age, yeah. But anyway, it's a long time ago. A massive amount of terraforming occurred, and it took a long time to do that. Terraforming where the city ports are and everything. There was no way that people just with horse-drawn carts and some tents could have got all of that and work done and had all the materials to get it done and things, which they just didn't. You've got Asperger's rife today because you've got lots of congestion that people are not able to breathe properly as kids nor see out of their eyes too much. You've got really the rainbow prophecy, of course, which really is about all of us living together underneath the one roof in common law, basic, okay. You've got a hidden past, of course, which is totally being, covered up. And you've got common law, where we talk a bit about, and you've got then communism, and then you've got predatorial capitalism. Isms themselves is easily really, because it's really the masqueradedness where anything is, and everything is from a single mind of I evermore. You've got self-autonomy in your interrelatedness. But yeah, where crime has to be kept up, where a facade has to have been, and that's way more noticed today, of course, since COVID. But today, all really is a hot potato. Nobody has liberty that they could see, which that's wrong. People should be equal to each other, to have judgment and have proper freedom. But if we really set it properly up, and we could hold this to be ever more, we could be more regulating ourselves more internally and externally, and we could be providing an example for the rest of the world, where communism really is the opposite of that, where you're just stock under a latched contract and everything is done to you by force, brute force. Nonetheless, it's sort of really a hidden past, non-stop beast barrack, fraternized club that's above all civilians, and these are people who've got the highest privilege, and you've got a lower privilege. And to feed off the greed there from a sloth trough, you've got degrees of fascism all mixed up with nobility and corporation. That's not a state proper, nor from we the people, and it's not got any centralized organized nervous system that's behind it. So only an oil and a stand, it could be felt, and nothing else that's about your own care and emotion and empathics and domestic currency exchange between ourselves, but not done in a proper way, but by a logarithm that's being put over the net and news and information, with the end result that everybody is just a human being mined for their energy, Lukey.
Right. Um, you're not talking about the Internet of Things, are you? Where they're like harvesting remotely through use of the blockchain, I think. Something to do with reading out, um, like, I want to say spare electrons, but I don't. I think maybe it's like when the two particles residium.
A residuum. Oh, and what about a residuum pulsation?
So, oh,
Which is like where two waves of phase conjugated to each other, something is left over, which because it's not equal and opposite, something is left over, and that's a residuum, and that's a JC quanta. That's the smallest particle,
oh,
and it goes down to a level, Lukey, of conductiveness, yes, and to a solid state that you get a kick off in inverse gravity.
okay. I heard you speak about that on Jubbtalk, and I was trying to maybe visualize it. It's kind of like a bouncy ball or something you bounce off of.
Okay, could you just imagine that where two waves come together, could they cancel each other out? Like if
Not
you bring
exactly.
one wave to come to another and on a rope, and each one's holding an end, and they put a wave together to come forward. It comes forward, and what goes? It comes to make it one, then it neutral like cancels itself out. You've got two waves when they're imposed upon each other. Uh, you've got nothing that's exactly the same, right? But close to it. But what is the difference between these two waves when they're superimposed, where they're phase conjugated, where they're brought together, and you've got that wave put over the top of another wave, um, something is left over, okay? Because it's just not equal. They're not equal to each other. And what's left over? It's a very small magneton particle, yeah? And
Oh,
that
the
is,
magneton.
it is a JC quanta. It's the smallest pixelated dot.
Okay, a
That
dot.
brings everything down to a level of conduction. So whether there any wires, even though at 35,000 feet a jet flew over and it rattled one window in your apartment, and it rattled that window because of conduction and resonance, you see? Yes? So it's like a long way away, but there wasn't any wire, didn't and wasn't a need for it because it's a steady state on a level of a JC quanta in space, connecting us more solidly together, you see? And so, yeah, energy is conducted, it's not caused to flow. A
Ah,
bank of energy is built up on one side in relation to another. And if it's a thin material that has to pass through, it could create light, you see, or get work done of some other nature. Uh,
some people ask about energy, and I was thinking that it was kind of like a river where you don't make it flow faster, but you can clear away debris, and then it will get better flow for your energy. Is that accurate?
um, if you've got one circuit that's bucks, which we do, that turns things on or off, when you turn something on and off, you have a big surge. It's the biggest surge. So if you want to conserve energy, don't keep turning things on and off because every time you do, you're going to have a huge surge. And so when you turn something on and off, another circuit close by there can capture the energy as it's turned back off again. It's like it's closing over before it does something is captive energy from this, and but they're clean forms and ways to be able to get energy, and our body uses this last method, like what I just talked about, as far as being able to generate, energy within the mitochondria, the energy generators of your cell. Um, and so eating doesn't describe all the calories that could have been used for the day at all, impossible. And unless you're considering 0 point energy and over unity, you can understand that energy is produced in the body. Now you can understand more things, sort of, because it's more cross-disciplinary. You're starting to understand more about plasma and a dynamic current and a static current and these things. And these things help us describe the body, Lukey. Yeah?
Okay. So I was wondering, would you have any use for some of this live colloid? I could send you a copy of the book and some poundage.
Yeah, anything that you have that you've put together, I would love to look at. And what could I do to help put something, if it help that a little bit, whether editing this is or something? Yeah, I'd love to get these books out. That'd be incredible, mate.
All right. Yeah, because I noticed when I was reading, I was like, wow, this is like the best advertisement for the live colloid. Um,
Yeah, I
so
wrote so much about the life colloid. Incredible, matter of fact. I wonder where all that is.
yeah, so I'm
I'm
getting.
glad actually for some of it. It's so incredible. Yeah,
It's probably this book because it's not short.
right.
But
Yeah, that's right.
so you know, as far as
Yeah, exactly.
the recipes that you told me was the black gold and the black gold triple X, and so I have a person in Maine who's offered to help me with like the gua sha
Yeah. All right.
on my back and stuff, and then
Oh yeah. Oh, fantastic. Wow. Yeah.
so
Um,
I was
Go
just
ahead.
wondering if do you want a um would you be able to do anything if I sent you some of the live colloid, or would you like a bottle of triple X to work with, or because
Oh,
I'm
have you
gonna
got
have
some
enough to go around.
Oh, you've got a bit of black gold there. Wow.
I bought the 5 pounds,
Right. Um, yeah.
so
Oh,
if you'd be able to
that's
use some.
amazing. Um, that's amazing. Are you putting some humics and fulvics in there, mate? I mean, you'll get some from the life colloid. Um,
Okay.
it should be that you have got some humic and fulvic. I often would put more humic and fulvic in it
Oh,
a bit. Yeah,
interesting.
but it's one of the ingredients that's in the life colloid that goes into the black gold. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I see. So put an extra humate and fulvic into the bottle.
Oh, if you've got extra humic and fulvic, yeah, yeah, I do.
This
I
for the
usually
triple
put a bit
X.
more in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
There used to be a big bottle of fulvics. I don't know that that's still there or not. Um, but yeah, there was a big bottle of fulvic and humic acid. Might it used to be in storage or something. I don't know. But anyway, um, um, I don't have any personal space to hold on to anything myself at the moment.
okay.
Yeah, so it's better not send anything to me
All
just in
right.
this moment. But in a short moment, I'll be able to have more personal space to be able to put stuff and things. But yeah, I would be still recording, mate.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what could be that we could wrap up things a bit with? Yeah. Mm.
Oh, I always have questions.
Yeah.
But
It's a couple of questions and we could wrap things up. Yeah.
I was thinking of what you said on Jub Talk, one of the episodes about a Kalaic voice.
Okay, legs.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
was
right.
like, well, they say, posture influences
Yes, it does.
brain activity, and I was like,
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
is that
Yes.
what happens with your Kalaic voice too? You kind of like,
Oh, absolutely. But you know that when somebody knocks on your door, you have really a high voice. You go, hey, and you raised your energy into a gamma state. Matter of fact, if you were aware of this or not, this is really like a visiting frame, and it's really more enough time. And this is sort of more close state to be a little bit more just before you've peaked, but you plateau basic somewhere there, and that's a feeling state that you have inside. But it's gonna a voice that is energizing is certain that a quality of relate to the cadence and things, where a voice would have done the opposite. It sort of really is much more clipped, and so it talks like this, and it's going to give you like this, and you that, yeah. And so this is very clipped sort of language, and that is coming from the adversive amygdala and tegmentum, and causing more brain freeze and shutting a brain down more, and causing someone to be more in a burst state. As if I said Lukey, or if I said Lukey, and the second way that I said that was sort of going up at the end and sort of really questioning things more. So how you or I, when we put things, something could be certainly energizing things because it's kind of having clarity. It could have intonation and pitch and rhythm that's in a flow. Otherwise, it could be just very clipped and coarse. And so voice could either energize somebody or it really can be doing the opposite in fact. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, yeah, behavior causes neurotransmission, that's right. Not the other way around. Like, as you're feeling connected to people, you've got more oxytocin. As you feel sort of more happy inside yourself, you're going to be using more serotonin. As you feel easy to forget things, you're able to have more serotonin. As you can feel more conscientious to get things done the next day and stuff, you have more dopamine. So behavior creates these things more. Yeah. Yeah, behaviors create. Yeah, that's right. Uh, well, oh, some of the things relate to what's conflicted and clearing away conflicted parts. Other things relate to not ruminating about things and getting rid of internal dialogue and things, but being able to look on the bright side as you can. And even when something isn't quite like that, it's better to be able to sort of look a little bit more on the bright side of things as one can. It's more, uh, yeah, positive energy. Um, and having interest in if need was, need is gone, because if somebody doesn't have need, then they don't have pain. And yeah, so if we lived in a world where common law was and people were in communion, and then things that can cause us to feel not quite right is causing us also to have neurotransmitters that certainly don't have much dopamine. So where I don't want to country try but must is you've got a lot of epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and adrenochrome. Yeah. So I've got stress hormones that are released, and those are things that take away the very substance that actually could cause dopamine to be. So more quiet mind, more rested. and what is my response where things are, so that something is more happy in its own self. Um, and then if I am, then you would notice somebody's got more bliss because they're achieving things. And when you're achieving things, you definitely have more bliss. Um, and if things are more set, there's not as much worry. And then so what would be left is conscientiousness, where someone's more conscientious and they set their mind to do things that sort of really could get more things done. And so this is sort of dopamine types of activity. Yeah.
Well, I I do my best to take it all in, Doctor Job. I'm always listening back, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to bless me with this amazing information, and I'm really looking forward to next time.
Yeah. Oh, let's do something coming up real soon, mate. I'd love for us to get some more shows where you are. People
Oh yeah,
have got
that's
some good information.
I was gonna say yeah because you have the Jubbtalk Spotify, and then I have another one. Like I think it's called Life Food Certified, so I can
Right.
put all your new
Yeah. Absolutely.
clips that we do
Oh
up there.
gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well and
So
truly.
whenever you
Well
want
and
to do it
truly.
again, I'll just put it right up.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great, mate.
Thank you.
Well, coming up in the next day, I mean, I don't. I think it's so amazing that you stay up to do this for everybody. And if you wanted to do a bit earlier, I would for sure. It's just is.
Well,
How about we'll text and I'd love for us to do another show. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm down to stay up for the hour of the shaman. I'm honored, David. I
A lot of things are sort
listened
of.
to all your podcasts in a row over the past few days and just ready for more. So
Oh,
thank
that's
you
great,
again.
mate. All right, love you, mate.
Love to see you,
Love
mate.
you, Lukey. Come on, mate.
Have a great night.
Bye, mate.